sit down after a while, okay? I'll be 70 years old. I played with Jimmy Field, and he's much older than I. But thank you for coming. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate what the university has done with the Andonie Museum and carry on history so that people don't forget what has happened in the past. Tradition is nothing more than what good people have done in your past, and that's why you have a bright future. And you as fans are part of that, I understand. When I came to LSU, I was introduced to a number of things, but one of them that surprised me, LSU fan. You know, they had won the national championship in '58. I came in '59 as a freshman. LSU signed 52 players. Y'all come on in. Cheap seats are up here in front. Come on up. This is like a Baptist church. Everybody's sitting in the back. So when I came to LSU, I was the 52nd player signed. They signed 52 athletes, and I was the runt of the litter. I was the last one. And you know, people have said, "Well, did that embarrass you?" Heavens, no. I got a chance to go to college. I wanted to go to college. Nobody in my family had ever been. And they said, "Did you go because they had the Chinese bandits?" No. You know, Coach Jones was here then. He became Abner Wimberly, the guy in the little statue out front, signed me. And I think he, in the next 3 months, decided that he had really made an error. He screwed up real badly, so he retired. And I was given to Larry Jones to make sure this guy, that he doesn't have anything to going for him, make sure this guy doesn't leave. So we began to try to understand the fans. I'm from Western Monroe, went into Western Monroe High School. Its second year of existence, and we weren't very good. So Billy Cannon and those guys had come, won the national championship, made a lot of people mad, and left. And we had to fight the fights that they had started. I found out that you as fans are special. I liken it to a parent and their child, if I might. You know, you can have, Judy and I have 2 children. I'm convinced they're both accidents of birth. Neither one of them are planned parenthood. But I've never found anybody that says, "Well, Jerry, let me introduce you to my son. We adopted him by accident." You don't adopt anything or anybody by accident. Do you realize that so many of the fans that go into Tiger Stadium, like you, did not come to this university? They're not graduates. They don't hold 1, 2, or 3 degrees. They're individuals who decided to come to the state university. And they have a passion. Why? They adopted this school. And there's something very special in the relationship, I think, between an adoptive parent and that child. And I think that that's the best way I can understand the passion, because I promise you, I've had to defend you across the country. You are famous or infamous depending on which place you're playing. And they don't understand. They say, "Jerry, do they really do these things?" Yeah. They'll look at you and say, "Can you imagine going to a stadium to play and every game you play is full?" Yeah. Jimmy and I can imagine that. That's the way it was. We knew no other way. So when you begin to say that that's what you have been responsible for doing, and then look at this, the opportunity again for you to be able to build something that has legacy to it, to be able to show to those that would aspire to something bigger and better than themselves, to come and be a part of it, I think is significant. Today I had the privilege of going to the Gridiron Club and speaking to them for a few minutes. And it was interesting that they wanted to ask a lot of questions, so I promised them that we would let them, and I will do you the same way. We've talked, several of us, before, and we'll have time for questions, but we're going to make it a little, change the rules just a little bit. An example why. When I was athletic director at Louisiana Tech, there were a group of men who owned the bank, and one of them happened to be owner of the Holiday Inn as well. And there were about 8 patriarchs up there that held court every morning and had solved all of the world's problems by about 8:30. And I had gone up there as an administrator, made some decisions that weren't really that popular. And there were some folks, according to the report to me that morning, that were really, really giving me a bad time. And when it got around to this elderly gentleman, it's hard for me to call anybody elderly now, but when they got around to a guy named Buddy Napper, Mr. Napper was a stately gentleman. He had been in the state legislature for several terms through several governors. His daughter, Susan, and son-in-law, Wallace, are very dear friends of mine and Judy's. And that morning, as word came to me, Laura, they were giving me a bad, bad time. And when it got to Buddy, they asked him, said, now what do you think, Buddy? He said, well, he said, I just need to ask you a question. On what authority have you been speaking? So tonight, when you ask questions, I'm going to ask you one first. On what authority are you speaking? See, my authority is I played high school football. I played college football. I played professional football. I coached at the college level. And I was an athletic administrator, and I was an athletic director. That's the authority on which I speak. I told that group there today. When I got through, I said, okay, now it's time for questions. They said, well, we normally get 100. I think we got 6. So we're going to be here a while where we can ask questions and go through it. Larry?
Jerry, I want you to briefly touch on what you're doing now.
Okay.
And some of the things you brought in with the, what's the name of your
Sports
organization?
Foundation.
Yeah, tell us about some of that and what you've done. There's a lot of things that keep going forever.
Hope it does. I was athletic director at Louisiana Tech. Then Mayor Tom Ed McHugh called and he said, hey, we are thinking about starting some kind of sports something in Baton Rouge that will bring people to play sport here. Would you be interested in coming starting it for us? And I said, well, I don't know enough yet to find out, but Judy and I came down to look at it. And it was apparent they didn't know exactly what they were looking for. They had no bylaws, had no officers, had no money, were not structured in any way. So Judy and I started back up towards Ruston, and she said, what do you think? I said, we probably ought to take it. She said, why in this world? I said, it's the only job I've ever been offered where the people offering it to me don't have a clue what to do, when to do it, or why not to do it. I think we might be able to make this thing work. So we came to Baton Rouge. We started something called the Baton Rouge Area Sports Foundation. We locked in geographically where we wanted to work. It's a 501c6 nonprofit. By design, a C6, not a C3, simply because we bid on events with other cities and other organizations across the country. And if I'm a C3, I have to make sure that the media is invited and be given the packets that we give to our board members. So if we have a budget of $3.5 to $5 million to bring American Bowling Congress, which is 66,000 bowlers, and we put together the plan for that, I do not want anybody else to be able to pick that up off of the idiot box, the website, and say, well, we know what he's going to be doing. So we are C6 by design. We have 2 full-time people and me, so there are 3 of us full-time. Our budget's about $250,000. We generate about $30 million a year of estimated economic impact to the city. We work about 53 amateur sports. Now that's male and female, from womb to tomb. The youngest we've had is 6, the oldest is 101. The smallest crowd we've had and helped sponsor is fencing, sword fighting. We had 16. Now that's 14, 15, 16. We had ABC in 2005. That's the American Bowling Congress. We had 66,000 bowlers, and they were here for 4.5 months and left about $80 million in town. And oh, by the way, they're coming back. They'll start building the lanes January 1 of 12. The first week in February, we will open the lanes for the first 2 weeks of public bowling to make sure the lanes are the way they need to be. And then we'll have another 70 or 80,000 people coming over a 4.5, 5-month period of time. Yes, ma'am.
Why do you have our red
Oh, that's what I was asking. You ruined my question. It's a wardrobe
Don't
malfunction.
say Louisiana Tech. Don't say it's
This is
crimson.
not red.
Well, it's still a wrong
It's a
color.
wardrobe malfunction.
South Carolina.
It's what I wanted to wear.
I appreciate that.
Jane, on what authority are you asking that question?
Do you want to know?
Do you think this thing's gonna have any impact on the game tomorrow?
No, I don't, but
Okay.
it's just kind of off color today.
No, depends.
Like Janet Jackson at the Super Bowl company.
See, well, Jimmy and Laura will tell you, you come into our house, you don't see purple and gold, you don't see awards, you don't see pictures, you don't see that stuff. I put things on out of my closet and wear it. I don't give a flying flip what color it is. I did take out a bright red cashmere V-neck for tomorrow down the field. And she said, I said, why not? She said, won't work. But we anticipated that question tonight. I appreciate it. Yeah. But I think it's a good-looking sweater.
It's a nice looking sweater, it's just a bad weekend.
That's South Carolina.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Thank God we're not playing North Carolina.
Yes, yes.
As college football has really changed, and as a coach, AD, and the strains of big-time college football have really changed. With the BCS and the budgets, what do you see as the major change in coaching at major colleges now? And how would you project going forward? Would it be more like the pros, where people moving in and out? Would it be more like, would we ever see a day where people would have a loyalty to a college and would never think of somebody leaving to go somewhere else to coach? Or do you see it getting more chaotic as we move forward?
I see the same thing in college athletics I see in our nation. We hadn't bottomed yet. I think we've got chaos. When you tell me that you have men that are going to come and have a choose a figure, how much do you want to pay your head coach?
Well, we pay back around $5.2 million.
Is he worth it?
The athletic budget is $130 million.
That's not what I asked. Is he worth it?
As a professor, yes, I can. I'll run the numbers and say yes.
No, he is a professor, full professor at the University of Texas. Knows Matt Brown extremely well, knows that Matt coached for me here at LSU, so we're picking at each other. I think we've got some things backwards in college athletics. I think the money is the driver more than ever before. When Jimmy and I were here at LSU, when Larry Jones was recruiting us and coaching us, you could not play ball as a freshman. You could play as a sophomore, junior, and senior. If you didn't play as a freshman and you got redshirted, which about 70% of the guys here did, then you wound up looking at someone coming out of high school like Jimmy, a high school All-American, having already now, before he plays one down of varsity football, he has been in college, university, academia for 2 years, not 2 semesters, 2 years. He's been in the off-season weight, strength, and conditioning program for 4 semesters, because if you're not playing, you stay in it year-round. So when he did get a time to go to the field, he was grown and matured in a level that he would have never been trying to play as a freshman. Every scholarship that they had then was a 4-year scholarship. The university entered into a 4-year contract with the student athlete. One of, I think, the worst rules that was ever made was they did away with the freshman not being eligible and the 4-year contract down to 1. So now freshmen can play. You're playing in front of 3,000 to 5,000 people 70, 80, 90 days ago. Now you're on TV in the Tiger Stadium playing against Alabama. And my goodness, you're not physically ready, I don't think. You may be fast and big, but you still have not learned the trade that you need to learn. And I think those changes have been made because of financing. And I don't think there's any other reason that I can determine that's there. I think that will continue to be there. I think you're going to find the competitiveness. You have 25, 30 schools in the country that you can write their names down today, come back in here 10 years from now and write their names down, and if you wrote down 25, 20 of the same 25 will be in the top 25. And they will still be paying more money than anybody else. Why? Because they can afford it. Everybody in here does not drive a Volkswagen. Not insinuating they're cheap, it's just the first one I ever owned, and it was $2,500. But that was just a little bug. Now those things are, what, $30,000, $40,000. But there's a lot of money involved in playing of athletics. Offensive defensive coordinators are probably making $500,000 to $800,000 now, and that would be more than the entire staff that I had, total salaries and benefits. So it's what, an 80, I don't know, I haven't seen the LSU athletic department budget, $80 to $90 million budget probably.